Thank you very much. You know, almost 3 years ago, we were named the #1 small business in the entire state of North Carolina. Now, it wasn't the #1 dealership, #1 used car store, #1 new car store, the #1 small business, and we were overwhelmed. A couple weeks later, I got a call from the producer of the Brian Tracy show. Now, Brian Tracy's always been a mentor of mine, and most of you probably know at least who Brian Tracy is if you haven't read several of his books or watched his, listened to his audio programs over the years. And he actually wanted me to be a guest on his show to tell my story, my family story, my dealership story. Of course, I said what most of you said, and I said, yes, when can I be there? So I went to be on the Brian Tracy show, got finished with the segment, and afterwards the producer came up to me and he said, you know, you've got a great story. I'd love to turn your story into a movie. And once again, I said what most of you would have said. Yeah, right. Handed him a card, we exchanged cards. I went back to North Carolina expecting nothing. A few months later, the producer called back and said, no, I'm serious. I really think that your family story, your dealership story, and your story as an entrepreneur would make a fantastic movie. So after many months of us discussing back and forth and making sure their vision for our store was the same as our vision for our store and making sure they lined up, they decided we were going to make this happen. Well, the movie came out. It was named Carmen. We were very fortunate that it turned out the way it did. This, the reel that you just saw, very small portion of that film, it won 5 Telly Awards, and next week we'll find out if it's actually up for Emmy nominations. It was on the Biography Channel nationwide, and I tell you all that not because I'm on a soapbox and want to brag about our store, which if you're not going to brag about your store, who is, right? So very happy about what we've done and about the movie. Fact that it was made, but more than anything, I love this industry and I'm passionate about this industry, as I'm sure that each and every one of you are as well. That's one of the reasons you're here. You're passionate about what we do, you're passionate to learn, and I was really passionate about this movie coming out and letting everyone see this film and showing them what automotive industry professionals are really like. Wouldn't you agree? Some of the finest people I know are in this industry, and unfortunately, we've been backed into what I call a negative corner, into a bad place. A lot of times we have really bad, there are really bad stereotypes, wouldn't you say, about automotive dealers? And this movie, if anything, if they blurred my face out, that would be okay in this film, because it really is about the success of our industry as a whole. And the movie itself, you know, it's been a platform for me. The story of my family, it's been a platform for me to share. And as I went around the country over the past year, and I've shared my story, my family story, the story about the dealership, and promoting the movie, not one time that I've spoken, one person, has it ever passed one person would come up to me and say, you know, it is awesome that you have achieved the American dream. Your family has achieved the American dream. I said, you're missing the whole point. Respectfully, it's not about reaching the American dream. It's about the journey towards the American dream. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to share with you my family's journey towards the American dream. And like all stories, we got to go all the way back to the beginning, because we fast forwarded to the end. So we're going to have a really good time, or I'm going to have a really good time. I hope you do. This the 6 o'clock gig is a little tough. Everybody's tired. Need to stretch it out, right? You need some coffee, you need dinner, you need the reception hall. Whatever the case may be, I can assure you of a couple things. Everything that I'm going to share with you today is going to be, there's going to be something that each and every one of you can take back to your stores and implement. And number two, I'm not going to try to sell you anything, because frankly, I don't have anything to sell you. Fair enough? Awesome. The story all starts in Germany, of all places. My ancestors were from Germany. 2 brothers came to America on a boat with 2 hammers and opened a successful construction business. And without getting too political, they built it all by themselves. Then there was my great-grandfather. Now, my great-grandfather opened the very first Frank Meyer store more than 85 years ago. And he was in a very small town They had 4 general stores in their town, and that's the way this store started. General store, they sold candy, meat, cheese, flour, gas, as you can see from the picture. That's actually the only picture we've got of him in front of the store. I really wish I had that car and that gas pump. And I wish I could have gotten to know my great-grandfather. Because everything I've heard about him, most of it's in the book Uncle Frank Says. Most of the quotes in that book and the sayings, they come from my great-grandfather. Of course, my father also picked those up as well and turned them into what my father will turn things into. And that's the word according to Uncle Frank. But he operated this general store successfully in this small town for more than 50 years. There were 3 other stores in that town just like his. They sold the same products to the same people, essentially. Obviously, back then there wasn't a stoplight. They got their products from the same truck. Same delivery truck drove from store to store to store to store, and they had the same product. The funny thing about it is, as our family of entrepreneurs went through the generations, we always asked ourselves, so how did he stay successful in that small town for all those years when the other general stores closed and opened and closed and opened and had different owners and they never really could stay afloat? And the more we thought about it, the more it actually puzzled us. Because I want you to think about it for a minute. They had the same products. Does that sound familiar? As automotive dealers, don't we have the same products essentially as our competitors? Now, I'm in a little bit different situation because I'm an independent dealer, but I'm not kidding myself. We buy the same cars at the same places that our competitors buy from as well. And where's that? The auction. I'm in the auction in the lane with my fellow dealers that are right next door, and we're buying the same fleet cars that they're buying. And we have to pay the same thing for them because guess what? We're buying them at the same place. That's what the marketplace is dictating. Transportation back to the dealership is what? The same thing. Reconditioning within reason is what? Same thing. And the marketplace will only allow us to charge a certain price, give or take. Agreed? So how do you get ahead in the marketplace? How did he get ahead in the marketplace? Is it easier now or harder now? More difficult or is it easier? I guess it depends on who you ask. If you're successful in your marketplace, probably you'd say it was easier, right? But I often wonder, and unfortunately, all we can do is assume. Because he stayed successful in this town until he actually retired and was always profitable. They sold the same products, the same price, for the same price, bought them from the same place. But the one thing that we did find out from journals and diaries and his book of credit, of course, I've never heard of anything like this. This may be a small southern town type thing. But there was podiums in the general store, and they were slanted, kind of like this one, and they were big books. And they were credit ledgers. So if Troy came into the store, and he said, "Hey, Frank, I'd like some flour. I'd like some bread, I'd like some milk, I'd like some cheese, and by the way, I'm getting some gas in my car." Great. What did he do? He wrote it down in the credit book. Now, we know for a fact, because we found relatives of the other people that owned stores in the town, that they didn't do that. But we also found out through lots of interviews that he knew the name of almost everybody in town. So one of the themes that I've heard lots of speakers talk about here at the AutoCon conference is people. It's amazing that that one thing never changes. It's still about people today, right? Now, through all of our interviews and everything that we found, we got a real good assumption that my great-grandfather knew something that the others didn't. Or maybe they knew it and just didn't put it into action, because you can know something, not put it into action, and it's useless, right? And he knew that people bought from people. The product didn't matter. And if you don't take anything away from this today, as I'd like to share with you, that it's still about the people. The product is essentially the same everywhere you go. But it's always about the people. I'm under the theory, it's a pretty good theory because we're very successful, that you can charge more for your product I said more for your product if your people are good and your processes are good and they like you, know you, and trust you. Anyone heard that before? Not the charging more part, but they got to like you, know you, and trust you. I think the first sales conference I ever went to, ever, when I was 18, 19 years old, the guy said, they got to like you, know you, and trust you. Just like that. And they're still saying that today, they being the sales gurus. And they are so right. Building rapport and them liking you, knowing you, and trusting you is as important today as it ever was. But it is an amazing story that all those many years ago is that he could build relationships with the people in the town where if a little kid walked in and little Jimmy walks in and he goes to the other 3 stores and they say, I like vanilla ice cream, sir. There you go, be a nickel. All right, great. And he walks out the door and he comes to my great-grandfather's store and he said, hey, little Jimmy, what's happening, buddy? Vanilla ice cream? Absolutely. 1 scoop, please. You only got a nickel today? That's it. Well, 1 scoop's a nickel, but for you, I'm going to give you 2 scoops. Give him the 2 scoops, walks out from behind the counter, and sits on the bench with little Jimmy to eat the ice cream cone. How long do you think little Jimmy was a customer of the store? Forever. And the other guys couldn't figure out how my great-grandfather could waste that much time coming out from behind the counter to serve ice cream and eat ice cream with a little boy. Think about it. Think about it. Some powerful stuff that we can use in our businesses today, right? Then there was my grandmother. My grandma Meyers was a tax preparer in her home in the 60s and the 70s. Now, from the stories I've been told in a very small town, and even in larger towns, women didn't have their own businesses in the 60s and 70s, for the most part, but my grandmother did. My whole family's been entrepreneurs for as long as I can remember. And they were all very successful. No pressure. No pressure. But we're all successful and we're all entrepreneurs. We all work for ourselves. How about you? What are you doing? I'm 7. What are you? We did get asked those questions at 7, by the way. We had Sunday morning meetings at our house before church. So we would come dressed, shirts, ties, pants, down the steps. We'd sit on the couch and my dad would be sitting there in the recliner. So tell me about the week. What do you want to know? What'd you learn? Nothing. Well, then you need to stop going to school, don't you? Yes. Not the right answer. So we learned really quick that Sunday mornings before church, we had a 15 to 20 minute meeting. We reviewed our week. It was our progress report. Are you doing that with your people in your store? Possibly should be more than once a week, but are you doing it once a week? Do you have a one-on-one, heartfelt conversation with everybody that works in your store, everybody that works in your department every week? If you're not, you may seriously want to go back and reconsider that. And you don't always have to talk about business. I often talk about lots of things depending on the employee, right? I'm under the theory that you can't manage everybody the same because everybody's different. I've got a love for comic books, as Glenn knows. And I've got a guy in my store and he loves comic books. Guess what we talk about? Comic books, right? I get at least 5 minutes worth of comic book conversation from him every week. I do like talking to him quite a bit. Those 15-minute conversations tend to turn into 45-minute conversations, but that's another story. But some of the times I remember the most as a kid connecting with my dad, those Sunday morning meetings, 15 minutes. Because like me, he worked most of the time. Of course, I don't call it work because it's not really work if you love what you're doing, and he didn't call it work either. But for the conversation, I'll call it work, so we'll all be on the same page and we can get an agreement. Now, this is my dad. Now, for the record, most people see this picture and they say, that's not your dad. My dad had me at 17, my mom was 16. I was an accident that worked out, all right? Because they're still together. So yes, he is very young. And the black and white picture, that's my son. He's 10 now. I've got a daughter, she's 7 now. And you know, we've all got a very good relationship, but even I find myself doing the same things that my father did with me. We have our Sunday morning meetings. It's a really good time to reflect and to think and to connect. And we're missing a lot of connections in business today. But I'll share something with you about my father. If it was legal and he could make money doing it, my father probably did it. From real estate to insurance, to opening a bank, to flea markets, to selling cars, to selling t-shirts out of a van at a flea market. Really? Yeah, really. But he loved selling. He loved the game. I call it art form. He calls it a game. So it really didn't matter what he was selling. Cars just happened to be there. It happened to be what we did, but he just liked people. He liked selling. So I learned a lot from my dad. As a matter of fact, growing up, there's one thing I knew I could do, and that was sell. Because I'm not really into the whole natural-born salesperson thing. I think some people are better communicators by nature, but natural-born salesperson I'm not so sure about. It is a learned skill, and my dad really did teach me early. Who knows what those are by show of hands? Anybody? Those are Ferrari sunglasses. Nobody remembers Ferrari sunglasses? They were popular for like 3 months in 1980 something, all right? So, Ferrari sunglasses cost $150, $160. My dad found a guy in China that made bootlegs, okay? He bought them $3 a piece. He handed me a box of them and said, take these to school and sell them. They're really popular right now, $15 a piece. I was like, sure, it's my dad, you know? Don't say no to Dad. Yeah, man, that's good, I'll do that. I'm in 3rd grade. So before long, I realized that the kids didn't have any money. They had lunch money. I'm asking $15 a pair for these sunglasses. I came back and learned a lesson. Always learning lessons from Dad. Still learning lessons from Dad. He said, you're not asking the right people. What do you mean I'm not asking the right people? I go to school with a bunch of kids. He said, use your head. Who's got the money? The adults? Now you're thinking. He said, who do you need to ask? Teachers? Yeah, maybe. But you need to ask the parents. Where are the parents at? The parents pick the kids up in the circle after school. Stand in the circle. When the kid gets in the car, you need to go to the car and ask the parent. The traffic cops are going to be circling them out, so they're probably going to give you $15 to get you out of their car. Okay, all right, no problem, I can do that. So I did that. First day, whole case of sunglasses gone. Before long, I realized that the teachers found out I was selling the Ferrari sunglasses. Guess who started buying the sunglasses? Teachers. Teachers start talking to other teachers from other schools in the community that I've got $150 sunglasses for $15. They start calling my home. Well, can Tracy come to the football game at the other school in the town on Friday night and bring some of these sunglasses? Sure, why not? And you know who took me, right? My dad was all in that. Absolutely. I'm going to buy some more. I'll have you 3 cases, take over there. At the end, and I really do mean the end, because what happened was the principal called me into his office and he said, Tracy, he did handle it well. He said, I'm very proud of you. You've obviously got your dad's heart, entrepreneur spirit. You're selling these sunglasses, and there's nothing wrong with selling, there's nothing wrong with making money, and I like a good little businessman. But you can't sell stuff in school. And I said, okay, but not before I sold him the last pair of sunglasses I had. So I knew that I could sell. If nothing else in life, from 3rd grade on, I knew I could sell. And that Ferrari sunglass craze really was about 3 months. So I'm not surprised that you don't remember it. So growing up, I knew I could sell, but I was determined I was not getting into the family business. I think, I was a pretty good kid. I didn't smoke, didn't do drugs, didn't get mixed up with the wrong crowd. I was a really bad student, but that's beside the point. I was a good kid other than that. But 7th or 8th grade, the only thing I rebelled against was going into the family business. I'm not going into the family business. I'm not selling cars. So I started to go to college. I told my dad, I said, I'm going to college. He said, where are you going to college? I said, I got to get out of this small town. I got to see other stuff. Fine. So he supported me. begged me not to go and to work for the family business. But I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Anything except the car business, because all my memories of the car business were bad. We would go out to eat on a Saturday night, and our restaurant of choice growing up, or my parents' restaurant of choice for kids, because we were loud. If you've got kids, you understand, right? Was Pizza Hut. So we would pile into the car, and we'd head to Pizza Hut, and we'd sit at the table, and we'd come back. But the dinner was enjoying, but on the way there and on the way back, it usually took us about an hour and a half to get there and an hour and a half to get back, and it was only 10 to 15 minutes away. Who wants to guess why? He stopped at every house along the way that had a for sale sign in a car. Everyone. He would pull up into the driveway with no blinkers, no nothing, 2 wheels, and just turn it sideways. He would knock on the front door, they wouldn't answer. He would knock on the front door, they wouldn't answer. Now, picture this. His car was facing the front door, and his lights were on bright. Somebody's front, at their front door. They wouldn't answer. Would you have answered? I wouldn't have answered. So he goes to the back door and starts knocking on the back door. My mom's screaming, Frank, they're not home. Frank, they're not home. There's somebody here. I hear them in the house. I'm like, okay, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. But he, more times than not, bought the car. They had to come out because he wasn't going away. Those are my memories of the car business. I said, I'm not putting myself through that. If that's the way I got to make a living, I'm not doing it. So I go to college. I go to Atlanta. And I start doing like most of us did in school, whether it's high school or college. We start looking for that job, right, that the student can work. I worked at the mall, and of course I thought the mall was going to be the coolest job ever. You know why? Because that's where the ladies were. Well, how wrong was I, right? You can't talk to the ladies at the mall. You're in the store, and you see them walking by, and they're not coming in at all, and it was horrible. So I quit. I don't like that. I go to work at a restaurant. I'm getting home at 2 in the morning. I'm not making any money. There's got to be a better way to make money. But I knew that I could do one thing. I knew that I could sell. I just had to find a place that would work around my schedule, right? And I could make this work. So I opened the paper. Yes, I opened the paper and looked in the help wanted section. That's what we did. Now hiring. Make up to $65, whatever the number was, $65,000 a year, no experience necessary. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Atlanta Toyota, Atlanta Buick. Selling cars, I'm in. 65 grand a year. I'm so in on that program. No experience. I've got experience. I'll probably make 80. So I walked in, and the guy said, man, you're a pretty clean-cut kid. How old are you? I said, 17. He said, that's okay. When can you work? Well, I go to school from 8 to 1. That's okay. We're open to midnight. Can you work from 3 to midnight? Every day. Absolutely. Well, we give you 1 day off during the week. I don't care. Put me to work. So I went to school from 8 to 1, sold cars from 3 to midnight. First month, I made more money than I ever thought I could make in my life. Guess what I did? I quit school. Now, big lesson coming up here. Really big lesson. I didn't tell my mom and dad I quit school. I didn't tell my mom and dad I was working at another car dealership. Want to guess why? My dad would have killed me. No, literally, he would have killed me. So I wasn't going to tell him that. Now, why I thought that my father and my mother wouldn't know that I quit school is beyond me. I really thought that I had snuck this over on them, right? The school called them in 3 or 4 days and told them. But they made a great, great, great parenting decision. They didn't say anything to me about it. They just let me go on my way. Now, myself included, how many of you would have found out your kid had quit school, would have been at the kids' student housing in 5.5 minutes, ripping them apart? Me. But they didn't. So I worked there for a whole year selling cars before I decided to tell my father. And so I called him on the phone. I said, Dad, I got something to tell you. I quit school. Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. Well, and I've been selling cars. Yeah, I know that too. Okay. Well, I think I'm ready to come home and work for the family business. No problem. I got a spot for you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. We like that. You know, yeah, you're cool. Yeah, I knew it was like that. I'll be there Monday. No, you need to give you notice. Okay, I'll give my notice 2 weeks. He said, but come on in Monday. They're going to fire you when you give your notice. What? Oh, yeah. They're going to fire you when you give your notice. No, they wouldn't do that. I'm telling you, they're going to fire you when you give your notice. That's what they do in the car business. Okay. Made no sense to me whatsoever. But I went and gave my notice and they fired me. So I packed my little Festiva up. Everything I owned was in the Festiva. That tells you how much I owned, right? Went all the way back to North Carolina. Monday morning, I walked into the store, dressed about like I'm dressed now, right? Always had a love for clothes. He said, you're a little overdressed, aren't you? No, I'm not overdressed. What are you talking about? I'm going to be selling cars. He said, you're not selling cars. You're going to be in the detail shop. Now, whoa, wait a minute. I just left a job making $60-some thousand a year at 18 years old, and you're going to put me back in the detail shop? I'm going to be the highest paid detail guy you got. No, they all make $8 an hour. Well, I was obviously mad, but one of those things where I was going to prove to him that he wasn't going to win, you know, that age thing, fine. So I go home, change clothes, come back. I work in the detail shop thinking I'm going to show him that he's not getting over on me. And 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 days, whatever the time period may be, because it won't be long, I'm going to start selling cars. Go by real quick. 1 year later, I was still in the detail shop, still making $8 an hour. Who's worked in the detail shop? Okay. So you'll totally understand this, right? And you can tell, I mean, pink shirt, pink tie, kind of a pretty boy, right? So you got your buffer, you got your apron, you got your buffer, you got your sheep, your lamb skin wool thing, right? Just doing this deal, and the stuff's flying everywhere, and the compound's in your fingernails, and you go home and you stink, and you can't get this stuff out from under your fingernails. It is horrible, terrible. Your arms vibrate all the time, right? Because you're running the power. Now that they're easy, I see the guys and they're running like with their hand, and they got their iPods, and you know, I was like, what is that? That's not a buffer. You need a buffer. One that has like a belt support, and they don't make them like that anymore. I don't see them anyway. Maybe they're fooling me, but it was terrible. So it was a hot summer day, and I remember it because I remember how bad it stank. That's all I remember. I looked out on the lot, and there's a father and a son, or what looked like a father and a son. And they were looking at cars. And they looked at the car, and they walked around it, and they looked up. And they looked at the car, and they walked around the other way, and they looked up. Nobody's helping these people. They walked around it, saw the dad do this, and I saw the body language. He was leaving. Nobody was helping him. Well, at the time, we only had a couple of people working at the store and a couple of people in detail. They look like buyers to me. They all look like buyers to me. I'm in the detail shop. Threw the mitt down with the sponge down. I said, I'm going to sell these people a car right now. I'm getting out of the detail shop. I remember that was my thought process. So I go out there, and 33 minutes later, I'd sold them a car. So I go to my dad. He'd actually gone home already. I drove to the house. I'm still in my detail gear. I walked in, and I said, I sold a car today. I want on the sales floor. He said, I guess you've earned your way. Of course, he said, I get the tone. I guess you've earned your way. We were always like this. So I started selling cars the next day. And that was a valuable lesson that he taught me at that moment. Valuable lesson. Because he told me just a few years ago, I said, why did you make me work in the detail shop for so long? He said, well, so many business owners, son, and so many entrepreneurs are always thinking about right now. They're never thinking about down the road. And the first Frank Meyers store started 85 years ago, so I would hope that we would continue another 85 years. And if you decided to step into that place that I'm guessing that you want to step into, then nobody would have respected you. And you would have failed. And I couldn't risk that. Fair enough. Fair enough. Lesson learned. So what's the takeaway from all this? Well, I bought the store from my father 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago now, and we've been very fortunate. Since we made the video, this video, not the actual movie, but we went from 22nd in the nation to 15th in the nation. We just got named to the Inc. 500, 5,000 list. We've had 6 best-selling books this year, named the #1 small business in North Carolina. And all those things were done because of people, our passion for the business. People say, so what do you do now? What do you do in the store? And I see you at every conference, every video, and you can't work in the store. I don't work in the store. Haven't worked since I was 17, 18 years old. The car business doesn't work if you love it. And I never have so much fun. I wake up at 5:30 every morning. If you follow me on Facebook and Twitter, you know I'm up at 5:30 every morning. I'm posting at 5:30. But it is a passion of mine. I love this business. Some of the best people I know are in this industry. And I know people in almost every industry. Good people. So what do we do different? Well, look, like I said, the fact of the matter is the product's all the same. So I'll ask you that question. What are you doing different? What are you doing different than your competition? Well, we got a nice lot. Your competition may have a nice lot. Well, we spend $150,000 a month on advertising. They could spend $200,000 on advertising. What makes you different? And you have to answer that question. My primary objective in the store now is to create the vision, to share the vision, train on the vision. That's it. That's what I do. And I don't think there's a more important job in the store. And the rest of the day I go around shaking hands, kissing babies, because that's right up there with it. If I'm at the store, I'm going to speak to every customer. You know who responds to every review, good or bad? Me. It's not because we don't have that many. We sell close to 150 cars a month at one point. You know how many cars we can get on the lot? 125. Our average gross profit is $3,800 and some change. First thing somebody says, I don't believe you, you're a liar. I don't have any reason to lie to you. You could do that. I think our grosses are a little low. But it's what we do with our people. It's how we train our people. It's how we share our vision with our people. It really makes a difference. And that conveys over to our customers. If you've ever followed us online, you don't have to follow us online, but that's really without coming to our store and seeing the store and the energy inside the building. That's really the next best place to get it. You saw some of it in the video. But I think Ralph actually said it last time we spoke. He said, I saw lots of videos, been watching them for years, and a lot of places they make videos and the people act like they're having fun, but you can tell in your videos that your people really are having fun. I'll go ahead and tell you, the second I see the spark out of their eye, we have another one-on-one, not the weekly. It's like, hey, you're not having fun. Oh yeah, I'm having fun. You having fun when you're getting your check? Or are you having fun when you drive into work because you're excited and you're passionate about being there? If you're not, all your customers are going to see that. Everybody else is going to know that. And it's like cancer. It's going to take hold and it's going to spread. And you can't stop it. I'll take that back. You can stop it. I don't like the word can. But it's really tough. Really tough. I always, when I'm showing my teammates when we're training, sales is from 0 to a 10. 0 is when they first walk on the lot. 10 is when they're leaving.
There's another one in there too.
And I say, look, when you meet and greet your customer, if you do it wrong, you're going back to a -3, -4. It's hard enough to get from a 0 to a 10. Why do you want to go back to negative numbers? And when you've got your teammates and your employees and team members, and you see that spark start to go away, if you don't relight it real quick, they start going into negative numbers, and then they start spreading that. And everybody else's fire starts going out. And man, it's the opposite effect of a wildfire. fire's going out. It's hard to relight it. So you got to get it sparked back up, or you got to help them find a job. You can talk to anyone that's ever had that conversation with me, and if they say it's not there and I don't know if I can get it back, I'll do everything in my power to help them find a job. Here's some really, really good teammates that we've had in the past that went to work at other places because I made a call. They didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't have the spark, and I couldn't risk my business on them, just like my dad couldn't risk his business on me. Think about that. And you may say, hey, I'm not a dealer principal. Doesn't matter. If you've got one person under you, you can convey that message to them. If you work with someone in a department, you have influence on them. And if you don't take anything else back with you, and none of this made sense, which I hope it did, one thing I'd like for you to take back is this, and it's not about you. It's not about you. Never has been, never will be. And on my drive in to the dealership every day, or my flight into a convention like here, and the convention next week, and the convention 3 weeks after that, I tell myself that same thing. This is not about me. Because if I give back to my team members, and they give to their team members, and they give to their customers, and the customers give back to their family members, and the family members give back to their community, the community is going to bring it right back to us. So if I come here today and I give to you, we're going to see that same ripple effect. That's big stuff. Or it was big stuff for me, and hopefully it's been big stuff for you as well. Small idea that you can make big. So, if you've heard my story before, you'll realize that there's probably about 45 different versions. Because my family's had a really blessed life. Lots of things, lots of details, lots of different businesses, lots of adventures, lots more books to write. But the core is always the same. It's always about family. It's always about people. It's about my fascination with my ancestors that came here from Germany. And how do you do that? How do you decide one day, you know what? Heck with this place and getting on a boat. We're going to take a couple of hammers because we can build a shed. Let's go see what we can do. Think about that for a minute. It's crazy, right? Some of your ancestors probably did the same thing or something like that. It's what they did. Who has that kind of vigor today? You know? Government can't pass a budget. And our ancestors were getting on boats knowing nobody. They didn't get on Expedia.com and book it. Think about that. They didn't have a travel agent yet. Now, when I get there, I'm a vegetarian. It didn't work that way. Can you arrange the tour for me on my day off? No. Man, come on, let's step out. Let's do it. Let's get it done. This is what we have chosen to do, so let's do it. So, hopefully you got some great stuff. I'm not going to keep you much longer, but I do appreciate your time. I got some free stuff. Everybody likes free stuff, right? You like free stuff? Cool. So, other than the takeaways that hopefully you got, let me show you some free stuff. So I wrote a book with Brian Tracy. Not only was on the Brian Tracy show, I wrote a book together called Pushing to the Front. It was an awesome experience. Brian is one of the nicest guys ever. So I took the book and I turned it into an audio program, video, MP4 video program, action guide, et cetera, and I actually secured the rights to it. The publisher had them, and they kind of dropped the ball and they went into public domain, which means I own them now. Okay, you can go to tracymeyers.com, my website, and you can download all that. The audio, the video, the action guide, everything for free. They sold it for $49, but that's free. Ralph was talking about handling a PR crisis. Anyone that remembers the FTC stuff that went down several months ago, and I was caught right in the middle of it. Me and 9 or 10 other dealers that were randomly chosen. I was one of those dealers. We responded within 24 hours against our attorney's well wishes and blessings with a video response. People say, how did you do that? That was all gut, heart, and instinct, because I could have butchered that a million ways from Sunday. Seriously. because you are messing with the FTC, and the press could have picked up the video and ran with it and made it worse. Thank God that it didn't work out that way. It worked out brilliantly. And was actually approached by someone to write a case study with how we handled that. Well, we had to really dig because there was no blueprint on how to handle that. There's a blueprint now of exactly, step by step, how we handle that crisis. The cool thing is that businesses, other businesses are taking this and they're applying it and putting this in place as their crisis mode document in their store. Not just car dealerships. So I'm really proud of that. You can download that for free on my website. They also did a case study on Carmen, the movie, on how we promoted the film Carmen. Because the reality of it is it's a documentary. And you know who watches documentaries? The people that are in them, for the most part, and the guy who made it. Yeah, right. So I said, you know, I'm a marketer at heart, I think, so I had to market the movie. The way we marketed the movie, we had a big red carpet premiere and a movie launch into the town and rolled in on a big bus, and we got the news crews out there and the paparazzi and I mean the whole deal, black tie. It tells how we did that. You're like, well, I'm not going to make a movie. You don't have to make a movie. You can follow these techniques and promote any event at your store. If you're having an event, which I encourage you to have events, I'm not talking about necessarily a tent sale, but true events, you can use this and use step by step how to promote it using social media and traditional media and word of mouth. Now this stuff's not free, but go with me here. You're the Brand Stupid. Went to #1 on Amazon.com. This essentially started as a playbook on how we market in our store. Literally. How we Facebook it, Twitter it, TV, pay-per-click, blog. That was our playbook. The publisher got it and said, this will be awesome. We put it together in a book format, put some chapters in between the how-to stuff to make it personable, and went to #1 on Amazon to everyone's surprise, including the publisher. So, decide. Yeah. Uncle Frank Says was the first book. These are quotes and sayings from my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my dad, everyone in the Meyers family. Some of them were really said, and some of them were things that were things that were said, but maybe not exactly in that way. A lot of Southernism. I don't know any other way to put it, but there are a lot of ain'ts, and I mean that's where we're from. So we kept the dialect real. But this is a catch-all book. It's really cool. The movie Carmen. And by the way, the movie studio that produced this was really nice. They sent 88 copies. I think everyone's lucky enough to get a copy. I was a little concerned because I'm like, only 88, but hey, we're good, right? So those are free. That's the entire DVD. It's got the red carpet version. The regular version is on there as well. So, and, oh, the Tom Hopkins book. My first mentor in the car business, or in sales period, was Tom Hopkins. Wrote a book with Tom Hopkins. That was unbelievable. That just came out a few weeks ago. Book U-Turn came out. Unfair Advantage. Real quick, this comes out next week. This is for everybody in the retail business, car business, period. That's the one Ralph was talking about. Launch date is next Thursday on Amazon.com. If you go to Amazon, I'm sure you all get emails about this. Don't buy it now. You can go there and buy it now. If you wait till next Thursday on the launch date, it's like $2,000 worth of free stuff that you get by buying it on Thursday. All right, so, and it's 19 bucks. It's cheap enough, but you're getting all this free stuff if you buy it that one day. Just keep your receipt for buying it, and it's cool. There's no pitching, no selling in the book at all. It's all pure content from digital to traditional to sales training to fixed ops. We wanted a how-to Bible, for lack of a better term, of something you could buy 15, 20 copies. Notice how I slid that in there. You could buy 15 or 20 copies for everyone in your store, hand it to them. There's an online community that will support it because things change really quick, especially in the digital realm, and that's going to be updated until edition 2 comes out. So this will be, if the publisher is on board and you guys buy a lot of copies, a traditional, an annual event. Wrote this book with Jack Canfield. It came out two weeks ago. And if we're not connected already, I'd love to connect with you. A lot of digital properties up there. And if you just got the phone, call me on the phone. You'll find out real quick. If you call me on the phone, I'm there. I'm going to pick it up, and we'll talk. But the pleasure has been all mine, I can assure you. If you ever need anything, give me a call, stop me, and I can assure you before it's over, I'll have learned more from you than you will have learned from me. All right? Thank you.
You know, I've been fortunate enough to know a lot of great people in the auto industry. This is a very special man right here. He responds to any messages you send him. Pick your channel. I don't care if I send him a Facebook message, an email, a tweet. This guy is one of the most successful people I've ever met. And then I'm going to share something with you that I don't even think Tracy knows that I do, but this movie, Carmen, the first time I showed it to somebody else, I was sitting in Social Dealers headquarters in Chicago, and I made every employee of the entire company watch this movie from beginning to end. And I'm not sure I ever told Tracy, and it moved them so much, and it helped them understand the auto industry, because these are people that had not worked in dealerships, but they were being paid to provide service to car dealers. Since that time, I carry this DVD in my briefcase, and everywhere I go, when people start asking me questions about the auto industry, I say, look, I'm going to take an hour of your time. I'm going to plug this document in, and you're going to watch it, and then we're going to discuss what goes on in the auto industry afterwards. So I definitely want you to grab a copy. It's a tremendous opportunity. You're going to probably want to share this with the people in your dealership. I know for Tracy, since it's about him and his family, I'm sure he's immune to it. But for those of us who didn't grow up knowing Tracy and his family, I watched this movie and it moves me. It makes my eyes get wet. When you watch this movie, if you're in the car business and you're not moved, you're not a car guy. So let's give it up for Tracy Meyers for coming out here. There's about 300 people missing. I want you to make sure you tell everybody what they missed by not coming in to this last general session of the day. Thank you.